This is Mayah Rose.
This is Gerald Rogers.
And today we're talking about never-ending expansion in relationships, how to support each other as you grow and expand.
So, in order for a relationship to thrive, each person must have space to grow and develop and expand and become even more of who they're meant to be. A relationship that starves or stagnates is when there's control or when there's this feeling that there's not room for more.
Yeah, and think about this. In past relationships, have you felt like you were in a box, like you were playing small in order to meet your partner's needs? That's the opposite of expansion. So first of all, you need to do the work within yourself. And we've talked about these principles. If you haven't seen our other videos, go back and watch them. But it starts with radical responsibility. So radical responsibility is the first principle. That's taking accountability for all things that are showing up in your life. The second principle is purposeful production. It's having passion and drive. It's loving your life and being able to show up in your passion for all that you're creating. The third principle is emotional sovereignty. This means that you're in charge of your own happiness. It's not your partner's job to make you happy. And that leads to the fourth principle, which is unconditional love. When you're able to experience unconditional love for yourself and also for your partner, it allows for you to enter the relationship with a full bucket and also allows you to see all of your partner in that unconditional loving lens. So whatever they want to do, you can experience that unconditional love for them. And that leads to the fifth principle, which is unapologetic expression, being able to share all of you with your partner. Now, when you can do those 5 things, it leads to never-ending expansion. It creates this safe space for you to show up as all of you and to allow your partner to show up as all of them.
I remember when I was in a previous relationship, I felt like I needed to shut down big important parts of me in order for that relationship to be okay. Right? Have you ever felt that way? Have you ever felt like you needed to diminish who you were or what you felt or what you thought? And ultimately, I felt like me being fully expressed threatened, that safety of the relationship. But in addition to that, when we feel unsafe to be fully expressed, it also shuts down our growth, our desire to become more, our desire to seek, our desire to really step into the unknown or to do what's uncomfortable. And so what I love most about being married to Mayah Rose is that she gives me space to be all of me. And she always has encouraged me in my desires and pursuits and dreams and visions and goals. And because I feel safe to be fully expressed, it gives me also this courage to do new things and to explore new possibilities and to step into the unknown.
Yeah, and for me in my past relationships and the conditioning, kind of the story I took on when I was younger, is that I needed to show up in a certain way in order for my partner to be happy. And so really I felt unsafe in exploring new things because I felt like my partner wouldn't support me. And this again was my own story that I created. And so I found myself really playing small in my relationships. And I want you to think right now, where in your life or in your past relationships or even your current relationship have you been playing small? Where have you been shutting down parts of you or been afraid to show up as all of you because you think that maybe somehow that will affect your partner?
And I'm going to invite you to consider, what would your life look like? What would your relationship look like if you felt the courage to continue to grow and expand in whatever ways you needed to? And what would that feel like to give your partner permission to be whoever they need to as well? And so as we talk about never-ending expansion, this really is like the core to feeling alive, this desire to experience new things and to grow and expand. And it begins first within yourself. And then once you find that in yourself, then you can bring it into your relationship as well. So I want you to think about, what are the things that make you feel like you're growing, like you're stretching, like you're expanding, like you're evolving as a human being? What are the things that when you do them, you just feel fully alive and engaged?
And there's several different areas in which you can assess and say, am I expanding in this area? So we've talked about this in previous videos, but one area is in your emotions. So how are you emotionally growing and expanding? What is coming up for you? And do you feel the safety to explore those emotions and then to expand? Another area is physically. Where are you physically expanding and growing and pushing yourself? I'm so proud of Gerald. He ran a half marathon last weekend. It was so fun to support him and be there at the finish line as he crossed the finish line, as he was expanding and growing in this physical area. Another area is spiritually. Where are you experiencing spiritual expansion? What are you doing to grow and to push yourself so that you can continue to get closer to yourself and to source, which will lead to closeness with your partner? Another area is mental education. What are you doing to grow and expand and learn? And then the last area we talk about is socially. What are you doing to push your comfort zone, to get into new areas, new tribes, to find new people? And one of the things that I've seen often in relationships is if there's this idea of constriction or confinement, there's this space of it's not safe to go be in new circles or to explore new friendships or to be around people. And when you're in an expansive relationship, you want your partner to grow. You want them to experience new things in all of these areas, socially, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so that they can expand and grow. And here's a really key identifier to know if you're experiencing personal expansion and growth in your life. And that is, do you do things that make you feel uncomfortable, both in your personal life and also in your relationship? So when I'm talking about uncomfortable, I'm talking about pushing your comfort zone. These aren't things where you feel like you're doing things that compromise your values or your boundaries. This is where you're doing things that seem a little bit scary because they're new, but you know that if you do them, it's going to help you grow and expand. And as you do these things, it will allow you to grow closer together with your partner, but also to have a better relationship with yourself.
Understand at a core level, our brain's job is to keep us safe. Your brain is hardwired to resist change, which is why oftentimes when you've wanted to do a new thing or to meet a new person or to discover a new possibility, there's fear that emerges when we step out of what's called our comfort zone, or what I like to call our known zone. It's like whenever we're trying to step into a new possibility, it triggers this fear and this almost like this warning light in our brain that says, oh no, warning, 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 danger. So I want you to take a moment and just think about where that fear has stopped you from actually showing up, and to really explore what that fear is really all about, right? Because our brain, in all of its loving kindness, it's kind of like an overprotective mother, right? It just sees something new, it's just like, whoa, whoa, be careful, be careful, be careful. And so we often start thinking and imagining that something painful is going to happen. I think the best definition for fear that I've ever heard is this. Fear is when we imagine a negative outcome on a future event. We imagine that something painful is going to happen when we reach out and talk to that person, or when we, start a new business, or when we read a book, whatever it might be, whatever that goal is that we're afraid to take the action towards. And our brain projects this negative image on what might happen. But what's important about understanding the brain and how this relates to never-ending expansion is when we can tap into our highest self, not our primal primitive brain that is designed to keep us safe, but the higher self, which is driven by growth and expansion and reaching our spiritual potential. That part of us, when we can tune into that, then we can take that exact same situation and start imagining a positive outcome on that same experience. And when we do that, then all of a sudden, what's the emotion we feel? We feel this excitement, this enthusiasm, we feel this joy simply by changing the picture within our brain. And so this is really important in never-ending expansion within a relationship, is what picture is driving your emotions, and those emotions then drive our actions. And so it's really, really important to understand how to actually challenge the biological impulse to fear change, and to actually embrace stepping into the unknown, because the unknown is the growth zone.
Well, and here's the truth about relationships and partnerships too, is that your partner is going to change, and so are you. You aren't the same person today as you were a week ago or a month ago or a year ago, and your partner is not the same person either. And what ends up happening in relationships is when we step into this comfort zone, we end up putting our partner into a box and creating these expectations on how they should act or how they should show up based on these past versions of them. So one of the things that will help you to be able to create an epic relationship, and one that's long lasting, so long-term relationships, this is a key. Again, I really want you to hear this. This is a key for having a long-term relationship and creating that epic relationship with your partner. And that is practice unknowing your partner. Give them permission to change and let go of the expectations, because they probably aren't going to show up the same way for you today as they did a week ago or a month ago or a year ago, and you don't want them to. As you both grow and expand, you're going to experience new things within your relationship, and they're going to show up in new and different ways, and a lot of those ways will actually create expansion, but it's that fear of, oh no, my partner's showing up differently, or they aren't doing the thing that I expected them to do, or they feel differently than they did when we first got together. That will create this constriction, and it doesn't allow for growth.
Yeah, stepping into the unknown in the relationship is really where all the possibility exists and lies. And when we try to hold our partner hostage to this old story of who we thought they were, and we all do this, right? Like especially if you've been with someone for years and sometimes decades, so like you have this preformed conception of who they are, and it's almost like you've written a script for the role that they're supposed to play in your life. But in order for the relationship to thrive, you have to erase that script, erase those stories, and allow yourself to meet that person with curiosity, as though you're like meeting them for the first time. And when you do this, like even if you've been together for years, it feels as though you're courting and dating, and the love stays fresh and alive. This is one of the reasons why in our relationship we're always like going on honeymoons. I think we've had 22 honeymoons so far in the 4 years we've been together, and we're just beginning. And this is why every year we renew our vows of marriage. And what that does for us is it gives us this experience of feeling like we're continuing to court, and I'm not like feeling like I'm controlling her. I own Mayah Rose, but it's like I get a hold her in this sacred dance as we continue to court and evolve. And I'm curious, it's like, who are you today?
And one of the things that helps grow this curiosity and helps create a safe space for expansion is questions. So we've talked about this before in our previous videos, but really diving into getting curious about your partner, asking them questions on a regular basis, like, what are your biggest fears? What are your dreams right now? What's alive or real for you in this moment? Share something with me that's on your heart right now. Let go of the idea or story that you know what their fears are, that you know what their dreams are, that you know what they're feeling, because as they expand and grow, they're going to experience new and different feelings. And the thing that will kill curiosity is the sense of obligation, right? The thing that's going to kill expansion is obligation. And so often when I see people get in partnerships, it's like once they are committed or once they get married, they now feel this obligation, or they have a sense of obligation that their partner's obligated to show up in a certain way, or they're obligated to do certain things. So let go of that obligation, let go of the expectations, and just get curious about where your partner is, and get curious about what you can do differently in your relationship in order to expand and grow.
So let's give you some practical tools in terms of how to apply never-ending expansion to your life. Number one, first and foremost, is find things that inspire you to be more. Whether it be books or seminars or events, or finding new hobbies that you want to explore. Do things that challenge you and that inspire you to see the world in a different way. And when you do that, you will always stay young, always stay alive and excited about life, because there's growth is so essential for that.
Yeah, and make sure you're doing this on an individual basis. So ask yourself, what am I doing to grow and expand? But also create this in your partnership. What are you doing together to create new experiences to grow and expand? It can get so easy to get stuck in this routine or this pattern or do the same things over and over again. What can you do differently this week? What's something new that you can try as an individual, but also as a couple? There's been some really fun things that we've tried together, or places that we've visited exited or gone that continue to push our comfort zone. For example, one of the things I love is that Gerald and I love to travel to new places. This pushes our growth zone and our comfort zone. We get out of our usual place and routine and the things that we're used to. And as we go on these trips, we plan adventures together. What's something new that we haven't tried or done before? And I remember when we first were together, I was really scared about, I'd never been cliff jumping before. I never jumped into water. I had this fear around it. I remember we went on this trip to Mexico and we took these four-wheelers up to this waterfall, and there was this cliff that you could jump off, and I was watching people jump off of it, and I thought, there's no way I'm going to jump off this cliff into this water. And even though I saw that it was completely safe, that multiple individuals were doing it, it was out of my comfort zone. It was not something that I was used to. And then I watched as Gerald jumped into the water, and he said, come on, just jump into the water. And I remember having this moment of like, okay, I'm going to try something new. And my partner was inspiring me. So I went to the top of the cliff and I saw him down there in the pool. And I just thought, okay, I'm going to leap into this future possibility. I'm going to push my comfort zone. I remember jumping off the cliff and going into the water and popping up. And I just gave him this big hug and was so excited. And that was just a small thing, but it created this expansion in our relationship. Another thing that we did recently that was really fun was we went roller skating. I'd been roller skating since junior high, and there's a roller skating rink by our house, and it was 70s night, and we dressed up in these fun outfits, and then we went roller skating together. It's something that I hadn't done in a long time, but it was really fun. It was out of the ordinary, and it pushed my comfort zone. It caused me to expand.
And so one of the things that I'm going to invite you to consider in relationships is the importance of always doing new things to break the patterns. Sometimes we get in ruts, or we just get in habits where you do the same thing for your dates, or you do the same thing every week, and just doing something new and trying something different is what helps keep that alive. And then the final tip that we'll offer is just the importance of really surrendering your attachment to the known and stepping into the unknown. Really diving in and just being curious about life, about work, about business, but then within the relationship, really get curious and see if you can meet your partner, no matter how long you've been with them, in the space of brand new curiosity. It's like, okay, who are you today? Tell me about you, and see if you can discover and find out something new about them that you've never known before.
So here's your challenge. If you're listening and you're at this point, your challenge, if you aren't in a relationship and you're wanting to call on your soulmate or soul partner, realize that your expansion and growth is going to create this magnet that's going to call these beautiful things and experiences and people into your life. So if you aren't in partnership, your challenge is to try something that pushes your comfort zone. Do something this week that's different, that's out of the ordinary. Now, if you're in partnership with somebody, talk to your partner and decide what is something that you can do that's new and different, something that you haven't done together before.
When you do this, just see if it ignites a little spark, if it feels like it stretches you and makes you feel a little bit more alive, and just see what's possible when you experience never-ending expansion. Hopefully this serves. Once again, this is Gerald.
And Mayah Rose. And remember,
this is your life.
So make it legendary.